say we talk about a woman who is born and brought up in a rural area, sees a father who is very dominating, and therefore knows the males in her fraternity being very authoritative.
One more thing. Now, you did mention about relationship patterns. So, how does your mind play a role into relationship patterns? I have heard a little bit about it that there is a particular qualities that you look out in an individual, that you build a relationship with. It could be something you have cultivated from the people you've seen around, or something that you have a norm in your head. So how does this work, and how does this affect you?
Let's go back to the theory of mind, the conscious 10% and the subconscious 90%. Now, if we take this as a round ball and divide it into two, we have a thin line which we call as a critical filter. So when a child is born, the child starts to learn by identification and association. And slowly, from 0 to almost about 8 years, there is a critical filter which starts to develop. Now, this critical filter develops on various factors. One is definitely the social conditioning. What kind of parents I have, where do I live, how are they communicating with each other, and so on and so forth. Then comes the education. The child goes to school, the child sees other children. They also see how the teachers are communicating with them. They have a wider perspective about the world and how it is functioning. Then the economic, that means the financial status in where the child is being brought up. And last, it's the culture, which part of the world which we are living in. So the SEER, the socio-economic, educational and culture, forms the rules in the mind of a person in 0 to 8 years. All the relationships post that are experiences which the child keeps on forming and storing as known patterns in the subconscious mind. Okay? So if the child is seeing the parents not being cordial, with each other, the child is seeing frequent fights in the family, the child, is now bringing up a mistrust in himself. The child feels that there is no relationship worth trusting. The child now feels that probably there is no true love. However, on the other side, the flip side, I would say, the child would also feel that I need to develop some areas in my own self because I need to now take care of myself. So that means the rules and experiences of the conscious and subconscious mind brings in a change in the relationships or the understanding of relationships. This is one. Now, this is a very deep aspect, Akshay. Say we talk about a woman who is born and brought up in a rural area, sees a father who is very dominating, and therefore knows the males in her fraternity being very authoritative, goes to the college, connects with a person who's also very authoritative, marries a person who's very authoritative, bears a child who's also very authoritative. That means her mind knows the area where men are authoritative. So that means relationships with men will always be authoritative because that is what her mind knows. Consciously, she might hate it, she might not like it, but subconsciously, she's attracting a similar pattern of men in her life. So, relationships we need to understand on the basis of our subconscious state of mind.
And that thing about attraction, is really that viable that even if you hate a certain quality, you're still sticking on to a certain individual or relying on a certain individual because of just that specific quality?
Yes, absolutely. Because our mind creates known patterns and the known patterns always gives pleasure to us. That's the reason lot of the women are still with men, who are bossing them around, who are authoritative.
Maybe there are very, very less viability of the other kind. Maybe they just have to make it work one way or the other. Otherwise, because of the next generation is not going to come anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. The change in the environment is playing a lot of role. The willpower, as you said, the person probably might be now becoming more aware about his or her requirements in life and takes decisions about the relationships because of that. Somewhere you have to break a pattern.
Eventually, men are generally brought up in a very authoritative way, like they see the patriarchal form of the society and they develop it very naturally. And if 80% of the guys are built up that way, so eventually 80% of ladies have to make it work one way or the other, or they have to deal with this one way or the other. Otherwise, they can't go around this. So
you see how we are talking about the socio-economic, educational and cultural.
Mm-hmm.
So we are here talking in India that 80% of the women have to make it work because that's how we are born and brought up.
It's a very good number if I'm saying 80%.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not about anything outside. It's basically how our mind is seeing things happening while we are growing up.
Okay, so eventually a lot of changes have to be made on all those forums
Yes.
to have the implementation
Yes.
in a very regulated